Greg Ferris was a lead guitar player on the Songsmith album, on a couple of the cuts on the Songsmith album. And and I knew Greg from high school, but Greg moved to Lynchburg, and so you just lose track of people. It's not like, you could connect easily on social media back then. It just wasn't around. So when I was working for Wesleyan, we had an education conference at Sweetbriar, which is right outside of Lynchburg. So I went up to Sweetbriar College. I knew that Greg was in Lynchburg, and I looked up in the phone book, and there he was. I called him up and told him I was in town. He said, "Come on out, man." He gave me directions. He lived way out in the country. I had to go out there after all the meetings were over, which is the nighttime. It took me forever to get there, but it was great to see him. We sat, we drank some wine and sat down on his porch and had this great discussion. He showed me his studio. He was using Cubase as his DAW and was working on his own stuff. And so, I said, I'm starting to get into this loop thing, and I also wanted to try something with him. I knew he'd be a great electric guitar player and a great mandolin player for the songs that I had in mind, but he couldn't come to the studio and I couldn't bring it up there. So what I had him do was I sent him, for all the tracks that he played on, which were, he played on Making Diamonds from the Coal, Over the Falls, Way of the World. I think that's it. But on those tracks, I sent him the basic rhythm and scratch vocal track. I sent them to him on a CD because we really didn't have let's swap the MP3 thing going on back in 2005. So I sent all those tracks to him on a CD and said, "Look, Greg, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take each one of these tracks and strip them off the CD, put them into an individual song on your DAW, pan them all the way to the right. Then I want you to add tracks, lead tracks or mandolin tracks, depending on what the song happened to be. Add tracks to it, okay? And each track will be panned completely to the left. So basically, there will be no crossover. I would not hear anything of the stuff that I sent him, the basic, fundamental rhythms. I would not hear them. Once you get those tracks done, burn them on a CD and send the CD back to me." So since they were done in real time, Greg sent the CD back to me. I stripped all those things, put them into my DAW, and pick and chose, it gets, cherry picked exactly what I wanted to have for each song and each part. So Greg gave me about 4 or 5 different lead tracks for every single song and also the mandolin songs and stuff like that. He gave me a lot of stuff to work with. And so I was able to use his parts and never, ever spend a moment in the studio with Greg. But it proved to me, and I've used this time and time again, especially with David Edwards, it proved to me that I could actually have a great recording situation. Of course, it's a lot easier now with the new technology and sharing stuff. But back in 2005, that stuff wasn't around. But I knew that it could work if we just followed, give him, the original tracks, give him the beats per minute, the key, and we're off and running, So that worked. And so Greg was able to add wonderful parts to this album without even being in the studio with me a single minute.
Wow. So now, tell us how you edited the organ.
Well, going back to the Joe Vitale thing, when you get the Joe Vitale organ CD of organ loops, he gives you a whole bunch of different stuff, different sounding organs. It gives you entire ensemble parts, that are whole movements and stuff like that. But he also gives you, you have blues, you have, funk, you have, rock and roll. He gives you these different, passages that you can work with. And there were certain things that I wanted to have for rhythm, and they were just that kind of thing. In other words, just to have as like a drone sound in the back, rhythmic, but not overwhelming, so that the lead parts and the vocals and stuff could cut through. But then when the organ actually took a lead, there were enough lead parts and lead passages to where I could sit through that particular, the organ lead before the second verse. That actually was about, 10 or 12 different organ pieces that were all put together, put in the same key, or put in the key that happened to be the chord at the time, and actually strung together to make that organ lead. And if I didn't, those organ parts, the tone of his organ stuff is great. So I didn't have to work all that hard to make them fit in, and especially to be a nice, I guess you could say, accompaniment with Greg's guitar stuff. So that really was a lot of fun putting that organ together, and I felt so good and so successful with it. I've used that in other things as well, especially on the Renaissance Man album, even Over the Falls. I mean, not Over the Falls, but By the Fence in the Sun. I have some organ parts on there. So at the end of the day, that gave me the confidence to, I feel like, if I actually would have had the time, I probably could have been a pretty good organ player, but I just never went down that road, that keyboard road.
Too many keys, too many visions that nobody sees. I see the writing, and it's all over the wall. I'm gonna put it in a barrel and send it over the falls. I caught her lying, I caught her cheating, I caught her begging for it down on her knees. I'm shooting something, but the man is too tall. I think I'll put her in a barrel and send her over the falls. Lying, everybody's dying. No one finds good help anymore. Where are the prophets? I guess they're down at the mall. We ought to put them in a barrel and send them over the falls. Media's wired, take a look at the news. Journalism driven by the corporate views. They think we're stupid, but that's a terrible flaw. We ought to put them in a barrel and send them over the falls.